I was always told that I was a peacemaker. Yeah. And then I learned many years later, probably thanks to you, that I was more of a peacekeeper, meaning just keep the peace, whatever it takes, keep the peace. Nobody say anything unkind. Nobody ever, let's just fake it till we make it kind of stuff. And then I learned how detrimental that is and shallow that is. So I wasn't really making peace with anybody. I was just trying to keep the peace with everybody. And then when you said seeking peace took motion, I thought, oh, wow, that's even another level of what in the world that means. So for our listeners, dive in and tell us what that even means, and then how you made that decision, and you made some pretty bold moves because of that decision.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, these last 12 weeks have been really intense for me. I think I've shared on the podcast before, this past fall, I did a certification program around sexual trauma and understanding our sexual stories. And it brought up some really painful parts of my childhood that I hadn't quite looked at yet, or maybe not looked at. I just didn't have adult language for looking back and being like, oh, this is how to name the harm that happened. And I got to the end of that program, and I just remember kind of being with my teacher and being like, oh, wow, I actually don't have the capacity to engage the fullness of what we found here. And so I needed to kind of check back in with my coach and counselor that I've had for the past 12 years and said, hey, I need to sign up and do some sessions with you. And we need to follow this to the end. And so we had one bucket where we're like, hey, I think we really need to focus on this. But it also touched some other tender areas of my life. And so I just began to say, okay, like I feel a lot of unforgiveness. And she's been so kind to me over the years. It's not like, oh, well, you just need to forgive this person, then you'll start feeling better. She's actually like, no, like, how do we name the harm that you experience? And how do we really sit with anger and sadness until they lead us to a place of like, oh, I'm ready to pursue restoration now, just for myself, because I'm worth that. And so we began that journey, and I felt really undone by just having to name honestly my experience, because there also was this internal battle is like, oh no, if I start naming things, it's going to impact people that I really care about. And what happens if I share my experience of anger with them, of hurt with them, of sad with them, and they lose identity with me, or they pull away from me, or so much fear of, oh no, like, do I actually want to do this? And so sometimes it just feels easier to kind of hide in this, the peacemaker thing of, well, if it's God's will, I'm just going to pray, and this person's going to call me on the phone, and it's going to be a perfect conversation, and we're going to cry together. And those moments definitely happen. But I was realizing that I was missing a lot of what I felt like God was inviting me into this year, because I was waiting for this perfect moment, and this peaceful moment, meaning I didn't feel scared anymore. Instead of just saying, oh, I'm actually going to identify my need and share that with my people. And it's going to turn up some things. And it did. I mean, there were definitely days where we talk about the dam bursting, where the dam burst and all I had to do was just hold on for dear life of, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. We don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to get you to hear my perspective and me to honor your experience while still like, this is all so messy and so painful, and I don't know what to do. And I was so flooded all day long, but I'm just going to hold on for dear life. And that whole idea of, it actually comes from Psalm 34. It says to seek peace and pursue it. Just kind of kept hearing that over and over and over again of like, you want peace so desperately in these relationships that mean so much to you. Like, are you willing to do the work to pursue, to move towards, to come in motion towards the honesty of naming what has been true in the experience at whatever cost? And so that's kind of how it started for me.
So your last words, at whatever cost. I think for many of us, it's like, I don't want to risk it. And there's relationships we have. I would think every listener could probably name a whole list of people that you either want more, or you want to resolve, or you want to bring up, but you don't. And so I think so often we then find ourselves compromising what we believe, compromising ourselves. We just deny, like almost like we hear the message, or we tell ourselves, right, just don't feel that way. Just don't think that way. Just get over it. Instead of going, wait, I have the right to pursue peace. Matter of fact, scripture even says to pursue peace. Like there's an action that involves. And, I was raised just to pray for peace.
Yep.
Like there's nothing you can do other than pray for peace. Like there's not an action to be taken. And when I think about even listening to you just now, I started thinking, oh, I really need to have that conversation with that person. But there's so much fear
Oof, yeah.
that I'm like, I can just sweep that under the rug. I can just pray about that, get over it. But then it is so limiting. It limits the relationship. It limits the deep connection.
Yeah.
And is there a risk? Sure. Does every story come out better? I doubt it. But I think that for so many of us, we're so afraid to try because we're so sure it's not going to come out well. And so then we limit the possibility of actually having that.
For sure. I think for me, I really needed two things. I needed to get safe first, and I needed to not say someone else's no for them. So I already came in with a narrative that's like, I'm going to bring this to them, and I know they're going to disregard me. I know it's going to break our relationship. I know that they're going to be upset. You always say that. It's like, we don't make it up. Like, we just know that. That's been our lived experience.
Yeah.
And so for me, the shift happened. I had gone on vacation to spend time with some of like my closest, safest friends. And so I was in a house with 6 people, six, make sure I don't leave anybody out. There's a lot of people in that house, 6 people that love Bridgett deeply. And so by day 5, my body started to actually like breathe and actually had space to look at the pain points in my life because I had physical touch every day. I had tons of identity every day. I had co-regulation every day with people in my house. I had meals together. I got to snuggle on the couch with people. Like all of these core belonging identity needs were met. That I remember on day 5, I just kind of had this breakdown moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, there's these 3 relationships in my life that are killing me. Like I can't spend another day with them like they are. I don't want to live in a world in which the way that I'm relating to these people exists. And I can't live not knowing what would have happened if I wouldn't have risked to say, I actually want more. A phrase I love to say is that one of the kindest things we can say to the people that we love in relationship is, this isn't working for me. I need to do things differently, but I want to do things differently with you. And so it changes it from, these are all the bad things you did. You hurt me, you, to I'm making a change because I have to make a change for me. I would love to partner with you and do different in a way that meets both of us, right? It's not like, oh, well, you have to abandon who you are. You have to just meet all my needs. No, it's just this is how I'm going to show up for me because I'm worth showing up for. I also want to show up for you, but I actually don't have the capacity to show up for you unless we do things different until we shift a little bit.
Yeah, and this, I can't help. I'm always thinking of Rowan and Malachi. They're always working towards peace, but they do that by conveying what's happening for them, not by whatever, suppressing, ignoring it. And I grew up thinking peace comes if you're able to shut up enough. And we worded it as in you just give it to Jesus. But really what we said, what we communicated was just shut up about it. And if you just, again, whatever words you want to fill in the blank with, suppress, ignore, deny, step around enough, you will get the peace.
Wow.
And I would never say that to Rowan or Malachi or anybody. And they wouldn't believe me even if I did say it to them. And you've been around both of them. They are seeking peace, but it is motion. They are moving towards it, it's not going to just magically appear because they just shut up enough so that now they're not bothered, but they give up on any of their needs, wants, experiences, and so now they're at peace.